Morning. I am Day of DHB, Devotion, Health, and Beauty Recovery Network. Walk with me on the recovery journey of hope, renewal, resilience, and self reflections as we read these daily affirmations, reflections, devotions, and meditations. And remember that you are not alone. Fair use. Daily Reflections. This is a book of reflections by AA members for AA members. April 11th. A word to drop. Blame. To see how erratic emotions victimized us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 47. When I did my fourth step, following the Big Book guidelines, I noticed that my grudge list was filled with my prejudices and my blaming others for my not being able to succeed and to live up to my potential. I also discovered I felt different because I was Black. As I continued to work on the step, I learned that I always had drunk to rid myself of those feelings. It was only when I sobered up and worked on my inventory that I could no longer blame anyone. Courage to Change, One Day at a Time in Al Anon, April 11th. Why continue to come to Al Anon? Because without spiritual help, living or having lived with an alcoholic is too much for me. I often need help to maintain a rational perspective. I long for a closer relationship with my higher power. The people in my meetings are so warm and loving that I would feel deprived if they were not a regular part of my life. The steps, traditions, and concepts all serve to put structure and goals in my life. Al Anon is the light that helps me find my way in the dark. As a longtime member, I am very familiar with Al Anon, but I am no more of an authority than any other member. I try not to present myself as a paragon of Al Anon wisdom, and I discourage newcomers from putting me on a pedestal from which I am bound to fail. I retain the right to have problems, to cry, to make mistakes, to not know all the answers. I still have and use a sponsor. I continue to give service to Al Anon, but I don't have to be in charge. Today's reminder: the amount of time I've spent in Al Anon is less important than what I am doing with that time today. There is a quote and it reads, I don't resort to Al Anon only to learn to live with the act of drinking problems. It is my way of life, and increasingly rich and rewarding life, as I learn to use the program in depth. The quote came from One Day at a Time in Al Anon. Just for today, Daily Meditations for Recovering Addicts, April 11th. A closed mind. A new idea cannot be grafted onto a closed mind. Open-mindedness leads us to the very insights that have eluded us during our lives. Basic text, page 96. We arrived in NA at the lowest point in our lives. We just about run out of ideas. What we needed most when we got here were new ideas, new ways of living, shared from the experience of people who'd seen those ideas work. Yet our closed minds prevented us from taking in the very ideas we needed to live. Denial keeps us from appreciating just how badly we really need new ideas and new direction. By admitting our powerlessness and recognizing how truly unmanageable our lives have become, we allow ourselves to see how much we need what NA has to offer. Self dependence and self will can keep us from admitting even the possibility of the existence of a power greater than ourselves. However, when we admit the sorry state self will has gotten us into, we open our eyes and our minds to new possibilities. When others tell us of a power that has brought sanity to their lives, we begin to believe that such a power may do the same for us. A tree stripped of its branches will die unless new branches can be grafted onto its trunk. In the same way, addiction stripped us of whatever direction we had. To grow or even to survive, we must open our minds and allow new ideas to be grafted onto our lives. Just for today, I will ask my higher power to open my mind to the new ideas of recovery. Today, Emotions Anonymous, April 11th. Reflection for today. Step 11 warns us to be careful of wishful thinking and rationalizing, and to be conscious of what we may mistakenly believe to be divine guidance. Talking things out with someone else is suggested so we may gain perspective and understanding before we act. God most often speaks to us through other people. When we draw closer to the God of our understanding, we may be tempted to put aside people and rely only on our higher power. If we withdraw from human relationships, thinking we are divinely inspired, we will once again find ourselves becoming self-righteous. Meditation for today. May I remain humble enough to recognize my need to continue to reach out to people. Today I will remember my relationship with God must be balanced with my relationship with people. Strengthening my recovery. Meditations for adult children of alcoholics' dysfunctional families. April 11th. Body shame. Body shame is not reserved for our weight or shape. BRB, Big Red Book, page 441. As children, many of us were cruelly mocked by our families for how we looked. Fodder for jokes were our facial features, body parts, voice, hair, nails, ears, teeth, ethnicity, and more. In order to survive, many of us acted as though this didn't bother us, but secretly we hung our heads in shame. To find a way to fit in, we ate differently, wore bangs, covered our ears, washed our faces relentlessly, and wore clothing to cover up the parts they laughed at. But it usually didn't work. Shame and abandonment were the bookends for each day. We lost everything when they abandoned us because it taught us to abandon ourselves. Our bodies were just another part of ourselves that didn't belong to us. During the recovery process, we began to see a brief glimpses of our true selves at meetings as we hear ourselves and others' stories. We finally start to feel acceptance, one hug at a time. Reading the ACA literature confirms that we aren't crazy. Our childhoods may have been stolen, but we survived somehow. It is with that survivor strength that we doggedly work our program. Gradually, as we look at ourselves, we start to do the most important thing imaginable. We accept our own appearance. The affirmation reads, "On this day I will look at my whole self in the mirror, smile, and say, I love every part of you. I am proud of how hard you are working to break the cycle of shame." Please share, subscribe, like, and most of all, be the you that you are created to be, one day at a time.